Hello, hello. I want to say something real quick. You know, in a professional type of world or just in this society altogether, you always seems like you have to have a conversation with folks. I'm going to give an example of something. Say you might have a boss or whoever it is or a coworker, something like that, something like a professional environment. Or it could be family too, but I'm more talking about what's supposed to be a professional environment. And you know you're dealing with a supervisor or a coworker or whoever it is that you know you can't really have a conversation with. I mean, you can probably talk to them without them getting hostile, but you know the entire thing is going to be deceptive because you know what kind of person they are. You know they are completely void of any kind of compassion, right? And for the most part, they are full of lies. And I'm saying, like, they consciously say things that's untrue, consciously say things that are untrue, you know, in that particular reality. But in a professional environment, you're always told, well, you know, just talk to that person. You guys have a conversation. Well, you know it's not going to really get anywhere, but because of this kind of society, you're still told to have a conversation with them. This is why I'm kind of glad this type of regime is coming to an end. You should not have to keep having a conversation with somebody who is who is known to probably do harm to others, but they're able to hide themselves. In this case, I happen to know somebody who hide their hand very well. They have done some very heinous crimes, and they have been able to hide their hand very well. They have been doing a lot of stuff to employees. They've been able to hide their hand very well, but yet and still, you're still told to have a conversation with this person and talk it out. And this is why I'm glad this is coming to an end. Because that kind of energy can't hide anymore. It can't hide, and that is the part when they were talking about the lack of privacy, like no more privacy. I guess Cardi B came out with some album. I don't know if it was 2018 or whatever time, whenever she came out with some album. Because I haven't really listened to these people since, I don't know, 2014 or whatever. But and it was talking about the end of privacy, and it seemed like it was talking about all kinds of surveillance and stuff watching you, like your cell phones and all these cameras, you know, no more privacy. But really, the lack of privacy is the people like this right here. I notice when the so-called powers that don't be anymore, I notice they want to maintain their power by trying to put fear in other people. They're trying to project their fear into other people when they talk about this lack of privacy. Oh, no more privacy. Well, there wasn't any privacy in the first place. You guys always spied on everybody. Okay? So the lack of privacy is that they can't hide their hand anymore. They're going to get exposed. And I'm talking about you're getting more into the spirit and out of ego. So that's what I mean. You're leaving more of the ego world, where I said on the last upload about how everything, you have to have this physical evidence for everything. Like you can't just trust spirit, because it's not about spirit in an ego world. It's all about evidence and paper, and you just have to see it and feel it. Everything has to be physical. The spiritual don't count. Everything has to be physical first, right? And now we're going back where the ego is no more about all this other stuff. People won't be able to hide their hand, because some people have been doing things for 30 years, never got caught because they know how to clean up well. That is the lack of privacy that's happening right there. That's the lack of privacy. So when these so-called powers that don't be, when they want to put this stuff out there, oh, no more privacy, no more this and that, they're projecting their fears on everybody else. Whatever they're projecting out there, it's really not supposed to be your fear. It's really their fear that they're trying to instill in you. Because if you rise up in consciousness, okay, more into spirit, then they cannot survive because their frequency is not that high. Just because they're rich, they got all this money and they're billionaires, doesn't mean they're spiritual. Their frequency they can't vibrate that high. So they have to keep doing this kind of stuff. That lack of privacy is about you going into more of a spiritual type of regime instead of just all about the ego and all that dog eat dog and all that kind of stuff right there. You get it out of more out of the ego, okay? You get it more into the spiritual type of way of life, okay? And so people like the example that I just brought up earlier about how, in this old regime, you always have to talk. Oh, just have a conversation, talk to them, even with family members. Well, just talk to them. Just talk. Why am I talking to somebody? I suspect they're a killer. I saw them, and this is from family members that I've seen do this. I've seen them in the spiritual realm. I've seen them do work on somebody. I've seen them murder somebody. You're telling me to have a conversation because you don't believe the spirit is real. You play and act like you really believe this, but you really don't get it because you're not taking nothing I say seriously. I'm telling you, I witnessed him and this person in the spiritual realm kill somebody, murder somebody. And you're telling me to have a conversation. See, that type of world is coming to an end. Because folks like that feel like you have to still physically see it in order for it to be true. That world is coming to an end. Because there's no such thing as waiting on to see something physically. Because the physical world is pretty much an illusion. We're not where we think we are. Like right now, I see myself sitting in a car with the car on and talking on this recording, right? But this is not where I really am for real. I'm not really in this car. See, that's what I'm talking about. So waiting on to see something with your physical eyes in a false illusion as opposed to believing spirit is completely backwards. We're leaving that kind of world where you keep seeing things for what it is. Spirit keeps showing you stuff for what it is, but you can't listen to spirit because you are under a regime where you just still have to talk to the person, talk it out, have a conversation. I just can't have conversations with people who I know are just, I know that what kind of people they are. And if you try to have a conversation you try to have a conversation about some of the things they do, what they would do is they'll get even more upset with you and they would take their whole wrath out on you. And then it still will be nothing you can do about it with those kind of people. See? But see, with folks like that, that's when spiritual work come into play. But with spiritual work, you got to always make sure you're clear to do it too. But I'm just glad that kind of world is ending right there because that don't make no sense. It's like these kind of people were allowed to just get away with what they were doing for too long, but that's because the old regime, it was in their favor anyway. The old regime was in their favor. That's why they were always able to get away with what they got away with for so long, because that old regime, that is where people like that flourish. That is where people like that are the most successful, in the regime of the ego, in the realm of the ego, like that. That is where people like that are the most successful. But when you're getting out of ego and more into spirit and put people like that with, they won't not only be exposed, they're going to die off. They're just going to die off and they're just going to be gone forever. So it's more than about these people getting exposed. They're going to die. Like the Reaper is coming to collect. Okay? So anyway, that is it, and I'll talk later.